In the heart of a big city, there was a very big hospital. It was the best hospital in town, and many people came there when they were sick. Among the nurses, one stood out. Her name was Nurse Lisa. Nurse Lisa was very fat and very beautiful. Her skin was smooth, her smile was warm, and her voice was soft, like a mother's touch. Pregnant women loved her. When they came for their checkups, she treated them with so much care. She would touch their bellies and laugh with them. "Your baby will be strong," she always said. "You are in safe hands." But she has a very evil heart. Every few weeks, something terrible happened. A newborn baby would go missing from the hospital. The mothers would cry and scream, but no one knew what happened. The doctors checked the security cameras, but they never saw anything strange. It was as if the babies disappeared into thin air. No one suspected Nurse Lisa. How could they? She was kind, she was gentle, she was loved by all. But Nurse Lisa had a hidden secret. At night, when everyone was asleep, she changed. Her beautiful face became wrinkled and ugly. Her smooth skin cracked like dry leaves. Her eyes turned black, and her fingers became long and bony. She was no longer Nurse Lisa. She was something else, something old, something evil. She moved through the hospital like a shadow, unseen by the cameras. She could smell the babies, hear their tiny hearts beating in their cribs. One by one, she took them. Whenever she eats, her body became young and beautiful again. By morning, she was back to the kind, loving nurse. No one knew. No one suspected. But one night, something happened. Something she did not expect. Stay tuned for part 2 and watch how Nurse Lisa was exposed. That night, the hospital was quiet. The lights in the hallways flickered softly. Most of the nurses had gone home, and the patients were asleep. Nurse Lisa stood in front of a mirror in the empty staff room. She touched her smooth face and smiled. But as the clock struck midnight, her smile faded. Her skin wrinkled, her eyes turned black, and her fingers stretched into sharp, bony claws. Her white nurse uniform now hung loose on her thin, twisted frame. She licked her cracked lips. She was hungry. Moving like a shadow, she slipped into the maternity ward. The tiny babies lay in their cribs, wrapped in soft blankets. She could hear their little hearts beating. A wicked smile spread across her face. She reached for the nearest baby. But just as her long fingers touched the blanket, a loud sound echoed through the hallway. Thud. She froze. Footsteps. Someone was coming. She melted into the darkness, her black eyes glowing as she watched. A young nurse entered the room. It was Nurse Chica, the new girl. She walked slowly, yawning. She was on night duty and had come to check on the babies. Nurse Lisa's sharp teeth clenched in anger. She had never been caught before. The other nurses never checked the ward at night. Why was this one different? Nurse Chica walked past the cribs, counting the babies. Then she stopped. Her eyes narrowed. She bent down and picked up a tiny cloth from the floor. It was black and dry, like an old piece of skin. She frowned and looked around. The room felt strange, as if something was watching her. Nurse Lisa did not move. She was hidden in the shadows, waiting. Nurse Chica shivered. The air was too cold. Her heart pounded. Something didn't feel right. Then she heard it. A soft whisper. She turned around. Nothing. The room was empty, but the whisper came again. It was coming from the corner. Slowly, she stepped closer. The shadows seemed to move, twisting and stretching. Her hands shook. She reached out. Then, a hand grabbed her wrist She gasped. The hand was cold and bony. Long, sharp fingers dug into her skin. Nurse Chica's scream stopped in her throat as the shadow moved, revealing a pair of black, soulless eyes staring back at her. It was Nurse Lisa, but not the beautiful fat nurse she knew. This was something else. Something ancient. Something hungry. Nurse Chica's mouth opened to scream, but before she could, the lights flickered, and everything went dark. The hospital fell into darkness. The only sound was Nurse Chica's shaky breathing. She tried to pull her hand away, but the bony fingers held tight. The grip was strong, like cold iron. Then, a voice whispered in her ear, "Why are you here, little one?" Nurse Chica's heart pounded. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The lights flickered back on. For a second, Nurse Chica saw everything. Nurse Lisa's true form, her face wrinkled like an old dry leaf, her black eyes hollow, her sharp teeth peeking from her cracked lips. Her white uniform was loose over her thin, twisted body. Nurse Chica's knees went weak. The lights flickered again, off, then on. But Nurse Lisa was gone. Nurse Chica stumbled backward, her breath coming in short gasps. Had she imagined it? Her eyes darted around the room. The babies were still asleep. Nothing looked out of place. But the cold feeling in the air remained. She ran out of the maternity ward, her heart racing. She had to tell someone. The warning. The next morning, Nurse Chica told the hospital director everything. At first, he laughed. "Nurse Lisa, the kindest nurse in this hospital? You must be joking." "I know what I saw," Nurse Chica cried. "There's something wrong with her. And the missing babies—" "Enough," the director snapped. "You are new here. Be careful what you say." Nurse Chica left his office, frustrated. No one believed her. But she would not stop. She began watching Nurse Lisa closely.